world where innovation drives success, can traditional HR practices still deliver on today's bold visions? The workplace of tomorrow's demands agility, creativity, and strategy. Yet many organizations find themselves tied to outdated approaches. What happens when the practices that got us here become the very things holding us back? In today's panel, let's explore why traditional HR practices can't keep up with your vision. So, without further delay, let's invite our esteemed panelists for thought provoking insights, bold ideas, and actionable strategies to rethink HR for the future. First, we welcome Ranjan Banerjee, Group Head of HR at Berger Paints India, who brings over 20 years of experience in transforming HR from transactional to transformational. A specialist in culture change and organizational growth, he has worked across industries from FMCG to textiles. Welcome, Mr. Banerjee. Now we have Sandeep Banerjee, CHRO of Everyday Industries, with over 27 years of experience in HR and IR. He has led transformational HR initiatives across manufacturing and service sectors, from FMCG to aviation and hospitality. He is known for aligning HR strategies with business goals. Next, we have Mr. Debraj S. Roy, CHRO, with 18 plus years of experience across global brands like Dabur, Glenmark, and Sony. He's a seasoned HR professional specializing in strategic HR alignment, talent management, and organizational transformation. Last but not the least, we have Mr. Bhanu Sharma, President and Global Head of HR Tega Industries. With over 2 decades of experience, he has successfully driven cultural transformations, M&A integrations, and organizational development in diverse industries. A practitioner of applied behavioral science and a retired ultra-marathoner, Bhanu blends strategic insight with empathy. Now let's welcome our moderator, Sampa Bhaumik, Head of HR at MCPI Private Limited. She is an HR professional with 27 plus years of work experience with in-depth exposure in talent management and talent development. She is a certified assessor from XLRI for competency assessment. It is time to start our discussion on why traditional HR practices can't keep up with your vision. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, all other panelists for today's discussion. I just want to admit, I think my job is more challenging than Pulkit because it's Friday and I think it's 7:30. So may not be the right time in the weekend to engage into a serious discussion, but okay, that's a call of the hour and we have to. But then my job is easier here today because I'm joined with very esteemed panelists, as you have seen from the introduction. So, of course, we will expect a very engaging and enriching discussion for the coming 1 hour. Good. So, we know that we have been hearing some of the perspectives in the previous session. And now that the topic where we are into today is that what is it needed, to keep up with the vision, that to look at into the traditional HR practices and to look into differently. So in today's fast-paced world, I think it is not only for HR, I think for every function that holds true, but for HR it is more so important because it takes care of the most important function of the organization, the building block of the organization, the people, the asset of the organization. So with this backdrop, we'll just go to the panelists with some of the thought-provoking questions, and we are looking forward from there. They are all the doing in this field of HR, and each and everyone in the panel today has got very diverse experience spanning across different industries. So we will get, those insightful perspectives. So when we talk about traditional HR, I think the most important part here comes into that always we talk about the strategic element of it and not the operational perspective. So with that in mind, first question, I just want to go back to Ranjan, ask Ranjan. How can HR move beyond administrative tasks? I mean, definitely there is an effort to moving beyond administrative tasks, and enough has been taken care of, but that is not enough actually. So to align with the broader business strategies, what needs to be done?
So I think the first thing is um, we need to look at the kind of employee behaviors that are required in the marketplace. So what does the consumer get to see when he visits your shop, your store, or interacts with your service personnel? What is the product that he gets to see, and what kind of behaviors are you supposed to display at the marketplace so that your services or products are sold effectively? That has to find its way back into the culture of the organization, and HR has to wake up to this fact that its job is to propel and drive those behaviors within the organization. So whatever HR processes and systems you have must drive such behaviors which find resonance in the marketplace, right? So for example, if you have beverages or soft drinks, there is not much market differentiation, product differentiation in the market. So between a Coke and a PepsiCo, and a customer rarely gets to understand what exactly is the difference. But there's a lot of fizz, and there's a lot of advertisement around it. There's a lot of hoopla around it. So your sales personnel or your employees in the marketplace have to display that kind of hoopla. And that hoopla has to get reflected back within the organization and its culture. The job of HR to move from traditional to modern, from transactional to transformational, is to be able to drive those behaviors which find resonance in the marketplace. That's the difference I find. Thank you.
Wonderful. I think, first of all, realizing that which kind of behavior actually will make the difference, that's what you're trying to say, and then able to drive that.
Understanding the product, the business, the marketplace, the consumer preferences, how it's changing, and therefore its impact on the kind of employee or kind of talent you have within the organization. All of that links up.
Absolutely.
Once you find that link, then you have moved from traditional transactional HR into HR which makes sense to the business.
So the need of the hour is full understanding and alignment with the business, the overall vision, and then accordingly realize that what kind of behaviors are needed at different segments, different positions, and driving that. Only realization will not help. Thank you so much for this insight. So after Ranjan, I just go to Vanu. So yeah. So my question is that, keeping that in mind, that what you feel that the key gaps in strategic decision making. Ranjan talked about the strategic alignment of HR, but then one of the key aspect is the decision making. So what do you find, or if you have observed that in the traditional HR domain that we face, that the strategic decision making remains a challenge? What kind of challenges there?
Thank you, Shampa. So I'll try to make it interesting on a Friday evening. So there are two larger areas, I think, when we talk about strategic decision making, is how do you kind of relate the production numbers. So let's say your FROs, free replacement orders, if it is a manufacturing organization, directly with your trainings on the shop floor, right? So now typically what happens is, or if something has been done on training, how do you relate it with the sales number directly? Now these numbers also have to be freely available. A lot of times the business plans or these numbers are not very frequently shared with the HR. Yeah. So first of all, that space has to be, or we are able to kind of get first access, or we are ourselves involved in the business planning exercise. The other part is, once we have these numbers, rather than only having a direct correlation, how do we decipher these numbers? So a lot of times we also, once we have the numbers, I mean, like for instance, we would have our training, I mean, like people coming to the training room and attending the training programs, or we have our leave datas with us. We have people moving out of a particular department, right? But we never use any statistical tool. So if I have to draw a parallel, uh, I mean, like an attrition trend is nothing like but a RSI, right? People who play with stocks, I look at it. It's a relative strength index. I mean, like the number of programs being attended by the people and the kind of leaves which are taken are nothing but your moving average. So if you take a, I mean, like, and that's I've experienced over the years. If you take, let's say, a 40-day moving average, and then you take a 200-day moving average, with respect to the people who are attending the training programs, and you don't have to do follow-ups, it gives you a very clear idea how, I mean, like people are perceiving your programs. Similarly, another example, a lot of times, um, I mean, like, for example, a sales organization, you make an incentive plan. We all know that if there are 3 data points, it becomes a trend, right? And when it becomes a, I mean, like the slope gets defined, it becomes a straight line. We all know that, but we keep it going on, and after 5 years, that incentive scheme become part of the salary. So we have to break it after 3 years. We have to launch a new plan so that it doesn't become a trend. So a lot of time this data is available to us. We don't analyze it the way we should analyze that data, and then we don't tailor our programs accordingly. And that's how somewhere, even if we get the initial impetus, we lose the, I mean, like and there was one of, I think the first slide was how do we get into the boardroom.
Right.
We lose that plot, even if it get it in the starting.
True.
So I think I mean, we kind of, we know it, but we don't probably use it because we think
Effectively.
it's HR.
Yeah, true. So I think, yeah, while it comes for decisions, a lot of insights from the data probably we get, but whether the question is whether we are effectively utilizing and using that for the benefit of the organization, there's a long way to go. But that is at least being felt and being talked about, that is what is needed. So a lot of reliance on the data is there. So if I may come to Sandeep, uh, just incidentally, in the previous session also, we have been talking about alignment of culture and alignment of goals. As also Ranjan talked about here, that it's very important to have that overall alignment, because that's a predominant first step, basically, to driving the right kind of a behavior in the organization, what is needed in alignment of the goal. So what do you think that HR's role is in driving this, culture and this ensuring the goal alignment?
It's a heavy one. Good evening, all. I can say that, I don't consider HR to be just a function, firstly. HR is as much as business that can be. Because personally, if we are all considering ourselves as HR professionals, we should also first consider ourselves to be business professionals first. So, understanding of the business, understanding of the goals of the business, the purpose that was shown for the business is actually the first step to defining what we are going to take things forward. Now, when it comes to being a subject matter expert on people management, HR, to answer your question, should act more of a catalyst here or a facilitator here, because it's not always a top-down approach. Of course, there are certain things built in the boardroom, that's for sure, but HR has to bring that maturity curve in the boardroom among leaders to align that what can be a possible purpose for the company. What is the strategic part of the company? Every company has got its own ethos. Every company has got its own culture. There is a certain amount of value sets of all company. So taking all this as a strength, I think the alignment of a strategy or alignment of the objectives to move forward is what needs to be facilitated by the HR fraternity or the HR head and the team, and we have to wear a business hat here. So that is most important. So when we wear a business hat, we do a lot of stakeholder management. That's important. It's not that, I know it, so it has to be like this. Sometimes the HR head has to play the role of convincing, coaxing also sometimes scheduling, sometimes, ensuring that at the end of the day, the managing director of the company or the board has set an agenda, which is to take the company to the next leap in the next 3 to 5 years maybe. And the entire facilitation, the entire strategic way of getting things done rests on the HR. And that is where, when I saw this beautiful slide of HR should be in the board, I firmly, I think, believe in this. To be on the board, we need to first be business managers. That's important. First, we should look into the mirror and see whether we have the capability to be in the board, add value to the board, add value to the business, and also add value to this people function that we are part of. So I would say aligning strategies, being great in stakeholder management, in facilitating, these are all areas which I feel would be the way forward to ensure how we can build in the future for the not only the function but organizations per se. I hope I've been able to communicate my way of looking into things.
Thank you. I think one very important, very insightful, but one very important thing, as you said, stakeholder management. I think the diversity in the stakeholders for HR are increasing, and that's why the ability to map, seeing that what are the impact on the businesses, and then categorization the stakeholders, because the strategy and for each and every stakeholders for engaging, everything is different. So that ability to understand the need at the fast, what the stakeholders need, is very, very important.
If I'm permitted, because diverse organizations have got diverse way of looking into things. What FMCG would look after, hardcore manufacturing would have a different alignment and a different strategy. It would be different for a retail organization. It would be different for an IT setup. So for an HR person, if he or she is business agnostic, when I say an HR person can float because he or she is a people matter expert. So learning the business and then enabling that learning of business into stakeholder management and getting it on the flow to the organization, I would say that would be one of the biggest role the HR leader has to play.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when you're talking about so many things at the need of the hour, so Debraj, if I just go to you and we say that if we just prioritize the HR skills, since we are talking about this daunting task in front of HR and that remains a talking point, so what are the priority, the skills which HR should have to influence, kind of decision and to create an impact, if we talk about skills here for the HR?
Good evening. Thanks for having me here today. I think we heard from all three panelists here the one clear number one skill set required for HR is business acumen. So if you don't understand the business, it would be very difficult for you to deliver your HR plans. So you have to understand the financials. You have to also understand how the competition is, market is, where you are featuring. As Sandeep said, that there are different dynamics in different industry. So where you are, you have to place yourself correctly. You have to understand. So it is also okay for you to take some time once when you join a role to understand the industry and the company first before you jump onto solutions. So business acumen stood number one as per me. Followed by that, I think in this digital era, data is what the common language is. So if you can't handle data, you can't get information, analytics out of data, it is of no use. So Gen Z, the efficiency, the productivity, all talks about data and analytics. So the next topmost skill set, according to me, as per my experience, is how you analyze the data and get some crucial information, business impact information out of it. And I think there are a couple of others, but I'm picking this third one. I think this is pertinent since we understand the situation is dynamic, it keeps on changing. So all that we know, the common say change is constant. So you as a HR person need to know how to handle the change management. So this is a big subject. It needs a lot of things, not just a science. It needs the right timing. It needs the right sensitivity in place. And of course, there is a science of change management into it. So my take as the top 3 items would be business acumen, data analytics, and change management.
Wonderful. So I think it's very difficult to prioritize, but you have very nicely put up. So if I just take a clue, it's good that you have mentioned about these 3, and out of that, if I talk about data, which came in Bhanu's, kind of piece of discussion as well, and the predominant priority and how it is helping in decision. These are the need. But then if we talk about that, we can't ignore the how part of it. How do we get the data? And there comes the crucial task of adoption of technologies. So that is probably the key element here, that adoption of technologies, definitely that is going on, but that how fast and how accurately that adoption, effectively that is getting utilized, that's become the question. So with that, how this advanced technology actually helping HR, empowering HR, and enabling to do and hone all the skills. So with that in mind, I just again go to Sandeep. And we talk about lot of AI in today's, in all arena. I mean, definitely HR is one of that. So in adoption of AI, how you feel that is reshaping in the entire talent cycle, specifically keeping in mind the talent acquisition, talent management. So how that HR, in HR AI is, reshaping the thoughts and, creating an impact.
These are personal opinions, but I would like to again say that technology, for example, whenever there are various kinds of industries and there are various kinds of human behavior on technology. Why I say this is that now more or less has become an order of the day. But when we started the journey, some of us are here in the room who've been maybe about 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of aversion on whether to adapt technology or not. And that's the reality. People felt insecure about it. People felt that whether I'll have a job tomorrow or not. That was the reality. Well, and every organization handled it in their own way, I'm sure. And that's why today, today when I was talking to Ranjan, we are all on platforms today. Most of the HR is on platforms
True.
today. 10 years ago, we were there, but somewhere someone was there, someone was not there. Today, most of the companies have adopted to moving into something or the other. Some technology or other, maybe in-house, maybe some of the branded ones, maybe some of the boutique firms, but they moved into it. So we're seeing a transition from the flow of a traditional way of working to an adoption of technology. And there is an adoption, when you adopt technology, technology also has its advancement. And now the buzz is AI. That's it. This is another buzz. And definitely with chat GPTs of the world and AIs of the world, it's helping. It helps HR to come up with a lot of, I would say, predictive analysis. When I say predictive analysis, it helps, for example, if there's a recruiter in the company, it does help a recruiter to probably, when he gets a lot of resumes in his data bank or her data bank, some keywords and all, if it's fed properly as per the JD, there is a shortlist done. His or her job load gets reduced. I'm just giving you some, which is very factual in nature, which is on a day-to-day basis a person in HR adapts to. Now, when you come to, say, attrition, for example, there is tools which has predictive analysis on behavior of people in terms of their social media sites and everything, which can predict, say 80 to 85%, whether this person is on the edge. When I say on the edge, means whether the person is engaged or probably is looking around or probably is trying to explore greener pastures. So there is also this helps HR to, whether to engage with that person more or not. Because if he or she is a key resource to the company, a part of the critical mass that we call it, we need to engage more with that person because nobody wants to lose talent. Everybody is invested on that person, on individuals, trained them, given them the resources, platforms. Nobody wants to again build it. It's a huge amount of effort which is non-tangible. That's the reason sometimes it becomes a thankless job, because it doesn't have a number always. Okay. So these are some of the tools that you can use to productively to make AI successful in getting metrics, analytical metrics for HR to take a decision which can take the company ahead. It can be, as I said, on attrition, it can be on hiring, it can be on feedback sessions, it can be on performance grids. So analytics and tool, and nowadays these platforms throws you so many analytics. So man, that helps us to make decisions quickly.
Right.
So AI to a large extent is a blessing if used in the sense to give you productive decision making abilities. That
Right.
is what I would coin it as.
Right. So any change, nicely said, then of course there are utilization, but for any changes, as we all perceive, comes with its own challenges. So I go back to Ranjan and ask that what according to you, or you felt, you perceive, or your insight on the challenges on this adoption of these new technologies that you feel HR is facing and will be facing for some time.
So there is an aspect which has been bothering me for quite some time, and I thought I'll put it on the table. We are all HR professionals here, and we're all dealing with people and responsible for people. Now, there is an aspect of a manager's work life where you deal with task, with knowledge, with mathematics, with numbers, with analysis, with analytics, with data, and so on, right? Those are quantifiable and easily explainable, okay? Easy to handle, easy to interpret. There is another aspect of a manager's life, which is feeling. So that the first one was on thinking. The other aspect is on feeling. How do you make a person feel? How do you leave a person with your behaviors? Whether a person will stay or go depends on how you make the person feel at the end of the day. How does he or she experience systems, processes, people within an organization will ultimately impact his or her feelings. The ability to interpret behaviors, and behind behaviors, anxieties and fears, is a very important skill that people in HR are meant to bring onto the table. We must have a very good grip on data. We must be able to interpret data related to people and its impact on business. That's quantifiable and much easier done. And we are all getting there. Some organizations have reached a stage of evolution.
Yeah.
Some organizations are somewhere in between. Some organizations are making baby steps, but they will get there. And that's going to happen because technology is going to move very fast, and that's inevitable. What is not inevitable and what is going to become a huge crisis for HR professionals is the inability to understand and interpret human behavior. Feelings backed by anxieties and fears.
Yes.
And if we are not able to build this connect and interpret this data and these behaviors, then we will be failing in our duty as HR professionals. I believe that that's the critical challenge in getting technology in HR. You must get technology in HR, absolutely. And that takes away the rudimentary transactional stuff from you. you are able to very clearly explain the impact of whatever you do on people vis-a-vis the business results. But how you make a person feel, how and why does a person behave the way he or she does, will depend a lot on how you make the person feel and what experiences in life has that person undergone, including the fears and anxieties which are inert inside. So it's an iceberg. What you see at the top is what we deal with. What goes on deep within is what we as HR professionals must know how to scratch the surface, get in and understand, and be able to interpret. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we must be cognizant of, and HR academia and the profession must not forget that building and rebuilding and polishing this skill is going to be critical for the survival of the HR profession. Otherwise, we will soon not be able to add value at the board level. Because at the board, people are not going to ask you how many successes do you have for critical roles. People are going to ask you, tell me, Mr. CHRO, is this person going to make it to the CEO or is this guy going to make it to the CEO? What's the difference that you find? And that difference is not going to come by saying he has achieved sales of so many revenue numbers and this person has achieved sales of so many revenue numbers. That could be contextual. The explanation that the board is going to expect out of a CHRO is to be able to say that this guy reflects the following behaviors when faced with crisis. But this fellow has responded in the following manner when faced with the same crisis. Therefore, going forward, the way the business is moving and the economy around the business is moving is going to be in this direction, where you might need people who are able to gallop the growth rates of the organization. Therefore, you will need to, I believe as a CHRO, Mr. X is a better bet for the CEO succession than Mr. Y. That's the input that you need on the board. And that's the ability that a CHRO needs to possess to be able to interpret and speak up at the board. That's where the board will say, yes, we need a CHRO sitting inside and telling us what to do. Right? That's all.
Fully resonate with your thoughtful perspective. I think in the hurry of adoption of tech, we should not forget the touch aspect of it, the constant, the pulling factor between the touch and tech.
Tech is a given.
Yeah. So
tech has to come.
absolutely.
Let's not even debate that.
Right.
It's an enabler, it has to
It's
come,
an
it has to be
enabler.
there. If it's not there, there's something terribly wrong. It has to be there.
Absolutely.
Beyond tech is understanding behaviors and
Yes.
going deep within.
Exactly. So that's what the touch part of it has to be there as a predominant aspect, and we have to be thoughtful, I think, mindful about it. So in the same domain, Vanu, would you like to add something on this, what Ranjan has said?
So I think Ranjan has brought in a very, very pertinent point. Now, if I would say, if you are a CHRO of an organization which is 18,000 employees, or you are a CHRO of an organization which is spread across, say, 20, 25 countries. Now, how do you remember all your, let's say, production heads or sales heads, or let's say all your future leaders, right? And you will have to remember it at different levels because different placements have to happen. So how do you remember that? So that's where I think the tech comes into the picture, and that's where our role in marrying the tech with the this contribution comes into the picture, because we have to then drive, and a solution which is available is a CDM, right? So, but most of, if you look at most of the HRIS available today, none of them, or maybe I mean like none of them till that level talks about two things. One is the career development matrix, right? Wherein they have always existed, and we have always maintained it in Excel's, right from I mean like Nestle was one of the first to do that and have a portal. Siemens has a very good system on that. I mean like we had it all in Excel, wherein you have all the employees, you have their Kundli, you have all the projects which they have done, which is very important. It's very, very difficult to harvest which projects this person has done over a period of time. And as Emily, you were talking about the keywords in a recruitment. Similarly, these keywords are important. And then obviously, one is we driving it. The other part is giving it in the hand of the employee. So if I'm in purchase, I want to kind of move into HR, right? So how do I move? If I'm into sales, I want to move into finance. How do I move in? Because not everywhere upward movement is possible. Lateral movements are also required. Now, that's where I mean, like your intelligence comes into the picture. You get your best brains and have a CDM in place, so that the best. I mean, like the only thing I think after salary which a employee requires is certainty. So if we are able to give them that certainty that these are the career plans which are available, rather than they coming to us and then we looking at the crystal ball and telling them that okay, this is available to you. If you can, I will like take it back to them, make it available to them. So that is something very bespoke. I mean, like we've also got it developed for our organization, not available off the shelf. That is one thing. And the second part is, I think you were talking about in the presentation about how do we kind of, I mean, like through, and nobody like if you look at success factors or anything right now and then, I mean, like these new age tools are coming up with that. How business strategy, how does it, I mean, like translates into a bios, then how does it goes to the different departments, and then from there how does it go to a DWM, daily work management tool, till the last level. That is right now not available, and that is I think our biggest challenge, that organization strategy and the CEO's dashboard and all, it is looked separately, and uh, and that is what is reviewed probably on a periodical basis, monthly, weekly, daily. The KRA KPIs of the person is, I mean, like reviewed separately, and a lot of times it becomes a stale document, whereas that's the thing which should be kind of going till the last point. So these are two things I think which if are available in off the shelf HRIS would make our life a lot more easier, rather than going for a bespoke solution, because it ends up being a separate 2.5, 3 year implementation altogether, harvesting all the skills required and those changing skills. Still, I mean, like there has to be best of your brains updating that. I mean, like that system on a daily basis. But yeah, I think it's high time these two things should become live, and the moment of truth, like not going to the bank, but the I mean, like you able to do your own banking yourself. So it has to go to the employee. They should be able to see what they want to do and how they want to do and which way do they want to move. So we also still have a Excel base with a front end which is through this. But yeah, couple of organizations have already solved, and it requires a lot of money. So those are two things I think if they can come in will make life a lot more easy.
Right. So what I've understood, you are trying to say there are twofold benefit. One is that, of course, integration of the processes that definitely is out and ensures the complete alignment. And at the same time, it ensures transparency towards employees in terms of, as you're talking about career, the movements and all, probably
More
that
than
visibility there.
more than the transparency, the moment of truth is in the hand of the employee,
Right.
right? Rather than coming to us that what will happen to me, or going to the manager, what will happen to me. They're able to log in, they're able to see, okay, I'm here, this is my possible growth in this organization. And secondly, the PMS, rather than becoming a stale document, which is seen at the end of the year, or we issuing dictats that now it'll be a 6 monthly or a 3 monthly thing. it becomes a live document because you are having your business review on that. So these are two things, I mean, which
I think,
solve
yeah,
the
true,
game.
true. So I think organizations today are working towards, making it, dynamic and making it more available to the employees so that this is there available at their fingertips to the extent possible, which definitely transparency and trust, you actually earn trust from that. That is one of the, key enablers. So I just go to Debraj, and Debraj, keeping this in mind, now we are talking about adoption of technology. Definitely this helps an individual. I mean, HR frees up a lot of time for really focusing on the value-adding aspect rather than the mundane thing. So what is your take on that? Yeah.
I mean, automation, what does automation is doing today is, I think we need to understand that. I think in the status of task, there are certain skill set which is not very critical, which is more like managing few affairs. Like in recruitment, you do a lot of coordination before the interview happens and the main selection process starts. So you can automate that, and that might help you save time in making the assessment more effective. Again, in terms of onboarding, you have some employee coming in with certain bit of joining formalities done, and all of these are low, if I have to say, low skill tasks. So why not automate them, and then you focus on employee experience. I think what we spoke some time back, Gen Z is all about flexibilities. And one of the key facets is employee experience. So HR starts to think all about how we can make this new joining experience more something aligned with business from a very short interval of time, trying to know the person better, more than what we have known him from his interview round. So all of this is more your gray matters, what it is happening. And automation is taking care of basically the task which is mundane, repetitive and all. So my take would be, in terms of free times, one has to see what is the need of the hour, where all we can do in terms of the experience of an individual, because this is where he's going to get really edgy, because engagement is talk of the town now, experience is talk of the town. The exit interviews are never given that due weightage. Now we still would like to have, if there are given a policy backup, we would like to rehire people. So there comes something called as net promoter score. So how many of them who have left us is willing to rejoin us? So all of these you can work out if automation takes care of the basic stuff. So I think you as an HR need to start thinking how I can add value to business with a real human science, rather than not just fulfilling certain tasks, certain numbers, certain documentations and all that.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Definitely it helps in improving the quality, as you said, of acquiring talent. So definitely the focus on the quality really goes, so that the ability to, the who is being inducted, I mean, really the quality being looked into that aspect, to that, depth, can definitely ensure a lasting bond with the organization. Of course, that has got an impact, long-term impact and sustainability on the business. So as you said, taking a clue from what you said on that employee experience, yes. Nowadays we talk about enhancing employee experience, and we always constantly, there is an effort, I think, for HR coming up with the employee value proposition. So I just go to Ranjan and ask that let us understand that according to you, what is that is missing? There is a definitely realization on the importance of employee experience, but what is that still missing in enhancing that employee experience? What is that more need to be done in enhancing the employee experience?
I think the key is understanding what the employee wants, really. What does the employee expect? What is happening in the market? What's happening in the world around you? Go through the process map yourself and say, is all this necessary? Or can you cut out on a lot of processes and systems and a lot of blips in the system? So understanding Gen Z, understanding what do they want, what do they expect, talking to them, talking to your stakeholders, getting a lot of, so when we went for Oracle HCM implementation in our organization. We mapped out the business processes and the employee processes in detail. And when we did that mapping, we spoke to the youngsters who were joining us. We spoke to the stakeholders, senior stakeholders over there, in terms of what they expect, and so on and so forth. So all segments of the employees were spoken to. And then we mapped it all out. And then when we chose our vendors, when we sent out our BOQ, we sent out that map, right? And then we said, now when you come to pitch, whether it's SAP, Oracle, whoever, when you come to pitch, are you sure your system will be able to mirror what we have asked for?
Right.
And if you say yes, we will be able to mirror, because during a sales pitch, everybody says yes. Once you make the first payment and then you bring them in, then they say this is customization, this is customization,
Exactly
this is
so.
customization. This cannot be done, this cannot be, this will come in the next, next
Upgraded
version. Next update. When will the next update come? Next October. Do I
Till
have
that
time? I don't have time. Because my customer there is doing something else. Customer doesn't have time. He wants a product either from me or from somebody else. So we said, fine. You said, okay. You're going to do it. This is okay. You will be able to mirror the system. Fine. So this document, which is a 100-page document, is going to be part of the agreement with you.
Business blueprint.
And our payment structure is such that we make the first payment if you mirror the first part of the processes.
So it's milestone based. Yeah.
Not only milestone based. If
also
your
result.
system mirrors my system, the way I want it to appear, I'm going to make you the payment. Otherwise, you hang yourself. No payment is going to come through. The moment you do that, you will find a lot of vendors will back off.
Very true.
And I've seen vendors backing off. Okay? I've seen implementation partners back off. I'm not mentioning names.
True.
They backed off at the last minute saying that, no, we can't do it. Okay? So, remember, whenever you get technology on board or you want to automate and so on and so forth, be very clear. What do you expect? What does your stakeholders expect? Mirror that on the process. Document your stakeholders' requirements clearly and ensure it is understood by the vendor. That is very, very clear. The moment you fail there, you will fail in the ultimate output.
Very true. So it's I think the approach what you are saying, I think perfect reflection of beginning with the end in mind. So what the end users actually want have to be very, very clear at the beginning, documented, well communicated, and communicated to the stakeholders, and continuously engage with the stakeholders. As you said, that interim connect and understand. So that actually helps in enhancing the experience of the employees, our internal customers. So in that same perspective, I would request Chandip. So what is your take on this, enhancing employee experience and increasing that proposition? Yeah.
See, every organization to me has got various kinds of employees, various types of employees, as we call it. While there is definitely the new age Gen Zs, let's not forget the baby boomers also. Let's
True.
not forget others also in the organization, because they are also there, isn't it? For me, employee experience is a holistic matter. It's a very relative subject, and it grows as you mature in an organization, number one. Number two, how do you understand, as Ranjan rightly said, we need to understand what employees really want. That's important. But how do we gather that information? That is when we keep an open door of communication alive in the organization. When I say open door of communication alive means it's not only HR, it's about anybody, every leader in the organization, any business leader, any line leader. There's a doors, everybody should be approachable. When I say hierarchical, that is important. So you get feedback. Number two is, what I feel is that exits needs to be taken seriously. Generally, we have in companies exit interviews done as part of a HR mundane process. It's like a tick box for some of the HR business partners, isn't it? That exit interview has been done. So I've completed my process, it's filed, fine. But I got a step forward. I engage a few employees who have exited after their full and final settlements and everything is done,
Yeah.
and they have got a 3 months period, they've joined their new organization and all that. Okay, they are into the new work. Then comes our link. And we've seen around 40 to 50% of the people do fill up. Okay. So he or she doesn't have any baggage, mind you. So I feel that these feedback that comes to us on the table reflects a better exit, a feedback. So that's also populated. Okay. Now we also do a lot of surveys internally. It's called internal customer feedback, which we call it. As we have customer feedback, it's an HR customer.
Yeah.
We are customers.
Yeah.
Who is our customer? Internal customers are employees, isn't it? So we take feedback from employees. So all this collated comes across some databases as some, it throws up that this is what probably an employee requires, because we are not going to shove it saying that this is what it is and be happy with it. So let's take it from there. So then comes the sitting down on the drawing board and trying to do something which actually relatively the experience level gets a little enhanced.
Absolutely.
So that's the way I would like. So it's a progressive journey for me when I say what is employee experience.
Right. Very nicely said. And as you said, when you talk about employee experience, it's not only the existing employees, I think the prospective employees and the employees who are departing the organization, because the people who are leaving, they remain the brand ambassador forever. They are the spokesperson and advocates the organization. So the experience in has to be, not only the infold, it's who can be in future turned to be and who have gone back. They come as a reverse migration as well.
We can take databases, some fill, some don't fill. If you
Yeah.
see Glassdoor, Ambition Box,
Yes.
Indeed, some people do give reviews.
Yeah.
So those are also some pointers of where you stand as an employer.
Of course. And very true reflection, and that really, really helps in come up with more, kind of thought-through approaches in enhancing the, employee experiences and coming back with the really value proposition to the employees. So in that context, I go back to Vanu and ask that, what you feel? I mean, here we talk about, Sandeep talked about the surveys and the responses and the feedbacks. I think for exit also, he's talking about feedbacks. So feedbacks play a very important role. So how do you feel that feedback to be, taken and to be considered when you're designing a productive culture in the organization? So what are the, elements or the approaches would be in terms of taking feedback and working on that and really working on that benefit of the organization?
So I think about the employee experience and the feedback, both like Ranjan and you've already spoken about that part. Something which is very trivial, which we generally miss sometimes, is that even if you look at a Gallup survey, if you look at a GPDW survey or anything, nothing talks about the power distance.
Yeah.
Right. So if you look at an organization, employee experience is also about those moment of truth which an employee faces throughout the day, which we
Right.
don't talk to him or her through a survey. So, for example, at a lunch, and which I have seen
Informal.
in multiple organizations,
Yeah.
specifically after I've come to this part of the country, having a separate table for the senior
Yes.
people and like separate table for all others. Yeah, yeah. So fixed lunch partner is a choice, but having like
Isolated
a separate
and
isolated table for the senior people with stuff laid out. So that for me, and we don't ask that in survey questions, right? Or let's say bottled water being given to senior people, and for everybody else there is a like a normal dispenser in the offices. Uh, so like we don't even ask these questions in these surveys, right? And these are the generation which is coming into the office now. It is a generation of belongingness. It is not a old generation of loyalty where you're coming in, you are surrendering everything. It doesn't even come to your mind that, I mean, like the senior level is entitled to something. They don't even feel that they are getting something extra and we are not. But today, I mean, like in this equality, when we are giving this kind of employee experience, kids are not up for that, who are coming into the organization. Similarly, when a HRIS is decided, right? So typically, historically, if you see, it's always SAP or Oracle which is decided, right? And large organizations. Why? Because typically the CEO or the CFO is deciding. So it is largely decided with the control as an anchor. But the work days and the HROne and the whatever is coming in, why are they are not very, I mean, like, not very, so to say, secure softwares, right? But the user experience is lot more better. So whenever we go for an implementation, and this is an employee experience thing, the largest number of touch points with that platform is going to be of people who are, let's say, at executive level, associate and down the line. And the design team composes of senior people and maybe managers who are not going to use it that much. And we largely focus on the process part and the controls. We don't focus on the user experience, which I think in the presentation you were talking about 3 clicks and all. So it is very important that user experience, first of all, the survey has to be right. Now, and for the survey to be right, the survey questions are to be designed by the mass, not by us. Because in our head, it will never come that we are sitting on a separate table. It will not come that we are getting, our floor is called a better floor in the office and other floors are called the poor floors in the office, or the privileges in the corporate office or the bandwidth in the corporate office which is provided is different from what it is in the other offices. So design of the survey is very important to have the right kind of uh, tool available so that you are assessing the right kind of employee experience. That's number one. And number two is it has to be taken, the design team around any solution has to be people where the moment of truth is experienced the most, rather than people with gray hairs or no hairs.
Right. So, yeah, very well said. So the inclusive approach is something that is what you are saying here. So at every step, whether we are driving a particular process or we implementing technology, or that inclusiveness is, there are two benefits out of it. One, definitely we don't leave anyone, and then you get a diverse perspective. You don't lose anyone, so you don't miss out on the important aspect where you get the diversity. So diversity, we talk about diversity can be looked at in all aspects. So I mean, viewpoint diversity is also one of the diversity that I think organization need to nurture and take forward. So I think we are coming to the close of the session, and before I just go back to the question answer, I go to Debraj. And the questions that we are talking about, measuring metrics and all, and we all know that all these efforts are being put on to enhance the employee experience, satisfy the employee, more engage employees. So other than, when you talk about metrics, the standard metrics we all call about survey and the satisfaction index, is there anything else that you feel other than the satisfaction index, the score, is there anything that gives us a better pulse or feel about the employee engagement or satisfaction in the organization?
I think ESAT survey is the base where it starts, and I think there are tools like Gallup and everyone is doing that. But I think what Bhanu said, how you can trigger the informal surveys and quick talk discussions to get some insights out of it, it can be your culture. You have to make it a cultural part so that you can drive that sort of informal experience what the employees are going through. Secondly, in terms of, I think there are other avenues. If you think career pathing is very important, then what is the internal mobility rate is what possibly give you a lot of insight in terms of whether people are staying and growing with you or not. So that gives you one more feeling of the employees are satisfied, so hence possibly they are doing that. Third, possibly, as I was saying, the net promoter score. the employees who are leaving, how they are talking positive about the employer in the longer run, even if the hiring is not happening. So that might give you a feeling that whether we are, as an employer constituted as a satisfied or not. So, and the attritions, so all of these are basically giving you a holistic insight of how you can look at whether I'm a satisfied employer or not.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think that audience here definitely have benefited from this insightful perspectives from the diverse panel over here, enriched discussion. But then we are, again, as I started saying that it's Friday evening, so it's too heavy discussions has already happened, but then we should also keep some time for question answer sessions. We are left with some time here where we can allocate for question from the audiences to the esteemed panel here. If you have anything, any questions centered around this in your mind, yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My question is for the entire panelists. It's an open question to everybody. We have been into learning and development for 14 years, and we have seen that there's a typical training topic that is asked on stress management. I would like to put up a point that everybody sitting in this room is somewhere stressed out, and unfortunately, most of us don't know why we are stressed. So managing stress becomes sometimes very difficult. When we talk about the modern HR, you have been talking about a lot of data analytics, technology and all this. There are certain organizations where people are there in the organization for years, and they are really skeptical about the data and the modern technologies, and they get into stress. That's my first question. How do you handle? My second question is that even if you have a plan, and this plan comes out of your mind, how do you manage your stakeholders on your plan to get this done? So 2 aspects of my question.
Who wants to take the question? Vanu?
So your second question, you said, how do you create buy-in?
Yeah, how do you sell your idea to your stakeholders?
Right.
Because they come from a different generation. They may come from a different generation altogether. So, syncing this with the Gen Alpha and your stakeholders. So how do you bridge this?
So see, it's, different kind of buy-ins require different kind of strategies, right? So for example, we went 5 days in the corporate office, and in the plants we went second and fourth Saturday off. Now, it took almost two years of seeding of different kind of data, and you use whatever on earth you have learned, right? It's not an easy step for any manufacturing organization. So you have to use your influencers, right? You have to show the data which is there. You have to find out your power groups, right? You have to get the talks arranged. So a classical 8 influence method. So it's no rocket science. Only that we train everybody else to do that, and we forget when we have to do that. So I think the crux here is patience, and also understanding the gravity of the situation. That does this demand, what kind of homework does this demand? Is it a big step? When we go, when we propose, will it get shot down? Sometimes it is worth getting shot down. If you are seeding, like he was talking about placing somebody as a CEO or a successor, sometimes it's worth, even if you know that this year this person is getting to be promoted or he'll not get that role, you consciously seed it this year, just that it becomes a topic he's discussed or she's discussed, and then next. So it is very important to learn this seeding part, and it helps. And so I would say the large part is judgment of which issue is a large issue and which is not, which will require homework, and then obviously use your power metrics, data, whatever you want to. And the first one which you talked about, stress, for me that is very simple. I think we get stressed when we are not congruent, right? And it's as simple as that. So if you are getting stressed, you find out another job. Don't get stressed, right? There is no point being in the same organization, getting stressed on a daily basis. Then it's not the organization, it's your fault if you are there for more than a year and you're
That's,
getting
that
stressed every
sometimes may
year.
make you more stressed, I believe.
Yeah, no, so I mean, like, so again, then be congruent. If you feel that you don't have it in you to move to the another organization, and this is the organization which is kind of helping you stay and perform, then better respect that organization. Be, I mean, like, absolutely clear in your head. Respect the place where you are. If you're not able to respect, move to the another place. Stress is not a factor of the organization. Stress is your own factor. Uh, be absolutely clear in your head. Nobody is to be blamed for the stress you are getting. Parents, wife, husband, kids, office, nobody. It's you. The issue is with your congruence, with your expectations, and the effort which you are ready to put in, right? So if you are expecting a higher result, put an higher effort. If you don't want to put that higher effort, then the person who has got promoted, please clap for him because he's put that effort. You have not put in that effort. Don't blame the manager that it was a favorite. So for me, it's absolutely simple. It's not an organization fault or an external environment fault.
Thank you.
I'd
Thank
like
you so
to
much.
I'd like to add to your question because it was a very interesting question and very actually very serious question also. Okay, because why I'm asking is that because in my journey I've had 3 transformations, and these are, when I say transformations, as the HR head of a company doing a transformation, you can understand you have to go through these battles of insecurity. You do not know the road ahead, and then whatever you call it is a stress, and and the mental health goes for a toss. It has its impacts on your personal lives. It's a reality, especially when companies transform. So from an HR perspective, your question was how do we deal with that, if I'm not wrong. So what we have been able to do and what I could do also from my 2 bits is that keep an openness and transparency in the organization, number one. Number two is that any person in an organization is a talent. Num- as an HR person, I believe that. Every person brings to the table something. Okay. Now, what is important is that the mental flexibility of a human being. Sometimes people adaptation to the change is very important. That is where HR plays a role. If I go to the table and say you're not needed in the organization, I'm actually shutting the door to the employee. But if I'm saying to the employee that probably the rules of the games have changed, there is a little bit of skill level that you have to acquire, you need to be flexible, or you may have to move to another part of the function or some other location, and also help the employee do that and support. You are actually creating a different sort of a environment to the entire transformation journey. So I believe as an HR professional, it's imperative to also understand sentiments. This is also culture building in a new transformation setup. Whether I have been able to build trust in the organization. It's important to take that journey because these are our people who are going to make us successful in the future. That was the first bit which I would like to take it. The second bit was that what Bhanu said was perfectly correct, is that HR becomes basically a salesman to the management. Okay. When I say salesman is that you sell certain things. How you sell it, how you actually deploy it, how you get things done is also a bit of a, I would say, personality. It's your words are important. The right word is important at the right time. Okay. Datas can be aplenty, but sometimes it's also jugaad, I would say. I'm being very, very honest about it because at the end of the day, I'm sure there are a lot of HR folks out here and we are also there. We've in our company, in our entire journey, we've had certain situations which is not in the rule book. You've applied your common sense and moved because the situation demanded like that. And somewhere you were successful, somewhere you failed. And those failures became your learnings that next time we will try not to do that. So the second question I would put it like that. The first one was what I little bit of, I put it, I would take it the way that's my personal opinion. Thank you.
I think we can take one more question before we conclude. So there is a hand
my
raised.
question is for Ranjan. A buzzword is the experience economy. What is your
Sorry?
the experience economy? You talked about, creating experiences for customers. So my question to you is, what correlation do you see between culture and creating strategic, striking experiences that draw customers into a company's orbit?
So culture must reflect, as I said right at the beginning, culture must reflect what the end consumer wants to see at the market. The experience that the end consumer wants to experience in the market, whether through the sale of product or services, is what must get reflected back into the culture of the organization. Right? And I think that's the correlation that I clearly see. There is no other correlation which is going to work. Because anything which is bereft of what the end consumer wants to see is not going to impact the organization's business or its bottom line. And if it doesn't impact the bottom line, it will not have any impact on the psychology of the organization.
So maybe my question is, how do you create a culture that enables this?
Okay, so how you create a culture is first, there are just a couple of steps. I'll keep it short. First, you must see what are the trends in the business environment. What is coming? What is impacting your business in the coming 1, 2, 3 years time frame? And then you see within your organization, what strengths do you have to be able to meet with those challenges and trends? What are the strengths you have and what are the strengths you don't have? The strengths which you don't have, you need to build either within or get skills and talent from outside. The strengths which you have, you need to leverage to be able to meet with those challenges. And where does HR come in? Very clearly, the HR processes and systems must clearly enable you to utilize those strengths or to get those strengths from outside, or else build those strengths within. So that's the relationship between culture, and when I say there's a relationship between HR and business, the bridge between business and HR is culture. So we have to be very, very careful about when we say culture of the organization is so and so. Innovation. We may not need innovation. For example, a beverage company may not need innovation, but a handset manufacturer may need innovation. And that will determine where you invest your resources. So for example, if a handset manufacturer is what you're looking at and they need innovation, then you need to invest in the core of the organization. So your training, your compensation, your performance, your incentives need to be focused at the core of the organization. Whereas in a beverage company, it's about distribution. The strength of the organization is at the periphery. So you need to invest your training, your recruitment, your skill building, your compensation, your incentives on the periphery, because that's where they're adding value. So just try and find out what is the focus in the organization where value is added. If it's a high product differentiation organization, like a handset manufacturer, the value is created at the center, the development scientists. Where you have distribution network and availability as a prime mover of the business, which is, say, a beverage company, then the value is created by these frontline sales guys in the market. So you need to invest your resources there. So I think that's the broad framework in which you need to work. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panelists. I think all the panelists have given a very well-rounded, comprehensive overview. So probably some of the questions which may not have, you have asked, but that takes care of those underlying, kind of, the questions probably you had and the issues there. So on behalf of everyone, I thank all the 4 panelists here today for such an insightful, discussions and deliberation and engaging with the audience. And thanks to all of you who are giving in a patient hearing. So with this, we come to the closure of this particular session. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Shobha, I think we should thank Shobha because very, very intriguing questions, and the flow also of the questions was very nice. So I think thanks a lot, well managed. I think
One round of
you
applause for
ensured,
Shampa.
yeah, you ensured it ends on time and people are able to enjoy that.
No, thank you so much. As I started at the beginning of the session, my job is easier because esteemed panelists are there, and my job, that's why it became easier. The flow went on with the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to our incredible panelists for such an insightful discussion. Now we are excited to move to the last but not the least segment of our event, Vote of Thanks. To present the memento, I would like to welcome someone whose commitment to the HR tech industry and elevating work fulfillment for HRs and employees is beyond compare. Having worked with him for several years, now I can truly say that one of the biggest qualities of him is empathy. A true people's person, ever so humble, ever so great. I'm talking about none other than the man behind HROne, our innovative and visionary founder, Mr. Karun Jain. Please come on the stage to present the speakers with memento. Welcome, Karun. Now, I'd like to call upon stage our respected speakers, Mr. Abhishek Arun. Thank you, Abhishek. Ms. Sagorika Sanyal Goswami. Thank you, Sagorika. Mr. Debraj Roy. Thank you, Mr. Roy. Mr. Sandeep Banerjee. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. Mr. Ranjan Banerjee. Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. Mr. Bhanu Sharma. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Last but not the least, Ms. Sampa Bhaumik. Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Sampa, and thank you all our esteemed leaders. QR code. Here's a QR code reflecting on the screen. We request you to scan for HROne PROPEL Kolkata chapter glimpses, comment and repost on your LinkedIn channel to spread the word. Thank you, everyone. Wow, this was an incredible gathering of inspiring leaders. Your presence here today actually filled this event with energy and excitement. Thank you for being a part of our journey. We are beyond thrilled for what lies ahead. Let's continue this incredible join together. Cheers to all of you. Now, I request you to gather on stage to create the memory of HROne PROPEL 2024 Kolkata chapter. Please welcome on stage. Everybody. I request everybody to please come on the stage. We would like to have a group photograph of the HROne Kolkata PROPEL chapter.